cults and ashrams and New World churches to follow some self-styled gurus, fly-by-night godmen, and who exploit the gullible youth with promises of instant nirvana, especially when their traditional faiths have failed these young people. Children and even adolescents are curious creatures, open to the metaphysical world. They love to hear stories of spirits, divine beings, ghosts, and scripture. There seems to be a time for this input to be given to them and this curiosity in them to be satisfied, or it will dwindle away or be taken up by the cares of the world, peer pressure, media lies, and parental bias. I think it's the duty of schools to provide children some sort of spiritual support, but schools tend to shy away from this. There are reasons for this. Who could claim to be trained to lead children along the right path? Most teachers would shy away from taking this on. They have no training and expertise in the area. They themselves may be searching for answers to life's questions. Second, with our diversity of faiths and cultures, we might be causing more problems than we solve. Thirdly, they tend to leave it to the parents and the family to handle this aspect, with the belief that things of the soul are best handled before the age of 5 when children are at home. Now, schools all over the world range from being secular to highly religious and fundamentalist institutions. Some of the top colleges at Oxford and Cambridge were founded by religious orders, the Jesuits, the Dominicans, the Franciscans. But today they offer a very secular all-round education. In the Islamic world, in the madrasas of India, I'm sure they teach the Quran and traditional scripts, while in traditional Hindu establishments, I think the Gita and Upanishads and Hindu mythology is covered. In most Western schools today, they steer clear from teaching religion, unless one is training to join a religious order. There is a difference in my mind between religion and spirituality. The former is to do more with the adherence and practice of ritual and laws of the faith. One sec, I'll just put my speaker up a bit here. Yeah. There is a difference between religion and spirituality. The former to do with adherence and practice of rituals and laws, and the latter to do more with one's deeper connect with a higher power, God or a spirit, love, or whatever people may call it. Religious people may not be spiritual. Example, the Pharisees in the time of Jesus were pompous and self-righteous. The temple priests and mullahs of other faith may be equally bad. In the name of religion, crusades and civil wars have been fought, and thousands have been slaughtered. In the Serbian conflict, the atrocities handed out to Muslim minorities by Christians was despicable, to say the least. In Ireland of the 60s, Protestants and Catholics fought it out for years. And recently, the atrocities committed by the ISIS and Taliban, carried out in the name of religion, have been some of the worst in the world. One has to be wary of religious people, in my view, because the Holocaust and the economic crash in the US, where the Lehman Brothers were involved, and the genocides and the pogroms all over the world have been caused by educated, religious, and cultured people who go to church and who have studied at some of the best universities. Then what has gone missing? There was once talk in my school, at the Doon school, to start teaching contemporary religion as a subject so that the students could get a feel of other faiths and learn to accept and appreciate the similarity between scriptures of different faiths. But this would have been primarily for an academic pursuit. There would be marks and there would be exams for it. Spirituality, which has more to do with one's inner state of mind and how one treats people, rests on the golden rule of treating others as you would like to be treated by others for yourself. And this is the bedrock of spirituality. Spirituality is a set of beliefs which guide our decisions and ethical behavior. Spiritual people may be the most irreligious. An atheist may be a good man. In many schools that have realized the value of some spiritual or inner development, value education or moral science is taught. In the Catholic school that I worked in, the Christian boys went off to catechism, while the others tiptoed to their moral science classes. The difficulty, of course, was that when subjects are not tested at the end of the year, students don't take it seriously. And on the other hand, how can we have a test for a moral science class? We either imbibe the lessons or we don't. Now, Howard Gardner, the great educationist, speaks about multiple intelligences. And one of his latest additions is this existentialist area or the spiritual religious area. There are some students who are highly sensitive and who are smart in this area. They take up jobs with high degrees of values and ethics are involved, becoming priests, prison officers, counselors, nurses, healthcare workers, psychiatrists, social workers. It is my personal belief that schools have a duty of promoting and perhaps teaching values and models in some way or the other, especially in these times when the understanding of other religions and beliefs and other people's way of life is to be understood. The world is being broken into factions by narrow domestic walls, as Tagore once said. We need to understand ourselves and others. Now, there are many ways in which schools can teach this. Some schools do it by the addition of certain texts like Walden Pond by Henry Thoreau, or To Kill a Mockingbird, or To Cry Thy Beloved Country. All these books deal with racial issues. And the discussion that arises after we learn these books is very meaningful. Others have movie clubs and meaningful movies like Good Will Hunting, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Mississippi Burning, are fertile areas where discussion can accrue. Other schools have a tutorial system where the teacher plays a guide and mentor's role. And in his group discussions, which are held once a fortnight, there are some very important spiritual and ethical questions that come up and can be asked. It is at these sessions that the poetry of Emily Dickinson, Robert Frost, or Rainer Maria Rilke can be discussed. Why? The songs of Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen can also be a part of the spiritual development of a kid. I particularly like the poem Anthem, which Leonard Cohen sings, where he states, forget, ring the bells that can still ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's important to see. Some schools do yoga, tai chi, and meditation, which is built into the school routine. Many schools in the US have now included mindfulness sessions from the Thich Nhat Hanh School and have found that it enhances academic performance. There's less violence, there's more peace. Very junior children can do well to read and study the fables of Aesop, Winnie the Pooh, The Wind and the Willows. These very simple books have a lot of deep meaning. Some schools could discuss the lives of great souls like Tagore, Krishnamurti, Ramanujam, Christ, Nanak, Luther, Mandela, Gandhi, Schweitzer, the Dalai Lama. These are all important people to study. At the Doon School, which is a secular institution, our morning assemblies were a time of great reflection, where hymns and prayers from all denominations were read out and sung. And many schools have very important assemblies, which is probably the only time a child gets in touch with himself. In older Christian schools like the one I studied in, there were chapel service once a week, attended by boys of all denominations. Eventually, what all these practices do is to help a student turn inwards for a few minutes in a day. Because most religions do believe that the kingdom of God lies within you. To quote a beautiful poem by Kabir, which I said at the Doon School so frequently, O servant, where dost thou seek me? Lo, I am beside thee. I am neither in temple nor in mosque. I am neither in Kaaba or in Kailash. Neither am I in rites or ceremonies, nor in yoga and renunciation. If thou art a true seeker, thou shalt at once see me. Thou shalt meet me in a moment of time. O Sadhu, God is the breath of all life. Now, in the Scindia school and Rishi Valley schools, very important schools, there is a special place that students can spend some time in the day, especially the evening as the sun sets, in deep reflection. These are called the Ashtar Suns, or the amphitheaters. And I'm going to quote a passage that I took out from the Google search. Ashtar Shal is arguably a defining feature of the Scindia school. Much harder to explain, easier to say. It is a place of incredible beauty as the sun sets behind the ranges. It is the delicate background cadence of the violin or the flute. It is the beautiful lines that are read from the speaking tree, or the calming silhouette of the Mahatma. Maybe it is just the 5 minutes of quiet prayer or introspection. Perhaps a bit of this and a bit of that. A student of the 1992 batch quotes, "I so miss the Astasal. Those few minutes would transform us into a surreal realm, something we miss in the bustling cities of our hectic lives." And again from Rishi Valley, F. Gordon Pierce, the principal of Rishi Valley School, after the Second World War, came up with the idea of the Astachal, a tradition which survives even to this day. Children gather here on the cliffside and sit and watch the sun sets. It is a short but peaceful period in their lives, which gives children the opportunity for quiet reflection, observation of nature, maybe daydreaming, or watching their own thoughts. In one of the schools in England where I visited and did a course, they actually taught a course on wellness. Yes, today people who labor under the yoke of depression, suicides, and an uncertain future, teen pregnancies, broken homes, substance abuse, peer pressure, they lack motivation and they really can benefit from a course like the wellness course. Um, in every uh, uh, now, today, most schools have moved away from the bookish taught moral science and value education to things called life skills or the PSHE program, which stands for the Personal, Social, Health, and Economic Education, where a variety of topics ranging from relationships with others to ourselves, motivation, substance abuse, and gender sensitivity, leadership, decision making are covered. Uh, uh, what what value education syllabuses do is they provide us, our schools, with a course in which we can teach empathy, human rights, gender friendly curriculums. Some schools offer a SEAL program, SEAL, which stands for the social and emotional aspects of learning. And this is a whole school approach for promoting the social and emotional health that underpin effective learning, positive behavior, and staff effectiveness, and the emotional health and well being of all who learn and work in schools. Now, many people believe that what we have witnessed regularly in the US, the mass shootings, and there have been about 298 school shootings in the US between February 2000 and February 2020. The racial violence, the violence against the aged, vandalism, theft, sexual crimes, and substance abuse are all related to the lack of any spiritual, moral education that the current generation has. I want to end by saying that what schools hold as important can be seen by the time and material that they spend on it. You may have physics labs and swimming pools, which get more attention to the meditation room or the counselor's cabin, which is usually tucked away under some staircase, obscure. What is the message that we send out to our children? That spiritual education is of little value. We can put it in our curriculum, but do we really pay lip service to this, or are we really doing it? Eventually, what really works best with young children is the presence of those few good teachers and mentors in schools who, through their very life and how they treat people and how they behave and in the decisions that they make, have a very powerful impact on students. Thank you so much. Over to you, Shabai.
Thank you so much, sir. As always, we benefit from having you give the opening remarks because then it sets the stage for everybody else who follow. Before moving on, ladies and gentlemen, I will take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about Notebook. Mr. Burrett was just talking about value education. What we realized is the social strata of families has changed a lot over the years. Today, most families are nuclear, and therefore, students today lack the aspect of storytelling that we had while we were growing up. And so we at Notebook undertook to convert the curriculum into a storytelling format, which could then be served to students over video. I will just take a couple of minutes now of your time to show you one of those videos. If you could just bear with me for a second. Here is a short clip from one of the Notebook videos that deals with the Mughal Empire in India, which is one of those times when the Indian spiritual scene really enriched itself by absorbing so much from other cultures.
Why did Akbar choose Abul Fazal to write the Akbarnama? He knew that Abul Fazal was an independent thinker, powerful debater, and a learned man, well versed in Arabic, Persian, Greek philosophy, and Sufism. Fazal also opposed the view of the conservative ulama, so Akbar appointed him as his advisor, spokesperson, and his official chronicler. Abul Fazal worked on the Akbarnama for 13 years and produced 3 books or volumes. Akbarnama provides a detailed diachronic and synchronic description of Akbar's reign. Akbar was a secular ruler who wanted to keep his empire free from religious orthodoxy or rigidity. In Ain-e-Akbari, Abul Fazl has described the heterogeneous culture of the Mughal Empire, where Hindus, Jainas, Buddhists, and Muslims lived in peace. Abul Fazl wrote Akbarnama with ornate or flowery language, with a stress on diction and rhythm. These texts were often read aloud in court. The Emperor Shah Jahan commissioned Abul Fazl's pupil Abdul Hamid Lahori to write the history of his reign, called Bhattacharyya. The Bhattacharyya is the official history in 3 volumes of 3 decades of the Mughal Empire. The 3rd volume was completed by the historian Muhammad Waris. After these court chroniclers and historians, the British administrators who ruled India began to create an archive or knowledge about the Indian subcontinent. The Asiatic Society of Bengal, which was founded by Sir William Jones in 1784, edited, printed, and translated many Indian manuscripts like the Akbarnama.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, after that short clip, it is now my privilege to introduce to you our next speaker. Our next speaker is Achin Bhattacharya. My apologies, my system seems to be giving me a bit of a trouble today. My mouse is getting stuck time and again. My apologies. Our next speaker today is Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO of Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was working as a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. He is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with a keen interest in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, if you're there, over to you.
Shubha, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
Good evening, everyone. I again welcome you to today's session on a topic which perhaps defines the broader purpose of our existence. Spirituality and education. Now, these two terms are both related to life. While educational institutions around the world teaches us how to earn a living, spirituality teaches us how to live. Unless we are able to listen to our inner voice and connect to the universe and Mother Nature to understand and appreciate the very purpose of our existence, the role of education, which only teaches you how to earn and accumulate material possessions and lead a life of worldly comforts, is entirely futile. This is the reason why we see so many instances of suicide, depression, domestic violence, drug abuse, even among the so-called urban affluent class, who, going by sheer yardstick of material possession, are achievers. But the unfortunate part is that their process of enlightenment is still incomplete, as they have not understood the real essence of life, and also how to live a healthy, stress-free, and happy life. Now, In today's era, we are witness to a critical battle between the best and worst possibilities, when forces of unity and harmony can triumph, and science and technology can be used to end poverty and deprivation. Precisely at that time, the forces of violence and greed are pressing forward on a global scale. Rationality, in which we have placed greater trust for fulfillment of our ideals of true and comprehensive knowledge, at times appear to be overtaken by irrational forces. Development in the field of computers, robotics, and artificial intelligence were earlier envisaged only in science fiction. Now, we are living in a world where we are increasingly taking various manifestations of artificial intelligence and human machine symbiosis in our stride. However, our moral caliber, now that's the bigger question, whether our moral caliber has kept pace with these developments. The focus of education has been more on material improvements and pecuniary benefits rather than on holistic growth of mind, body, and spirit. The moral growth of man has not matched his vast strides in other fields. If we want to build anew and make the world a safer place for future generations, we must attempt to raise the individual's moral stature by forming an inclusive approach to education. We must assist the students to rest a while in the inns of religious, moral, spiritual, academic consciousness, thus letting them rise and proceed refreshed and encouraged. Now, I believe it is imperative that we educate students to explore deeper and higher dimensions of human mind so that they can successfully work for the fulfillment of their ideal dreams. Our teachings need to unleash the power of cultural, ethical, spiritual potentialities of the human mind. Now, the meaning of spiritual leader in any religion around the world always means a teacher. Thus, whether we refer to guru, imam, or rabbi, the meaning is all the same, and that is teacher. Thus, teaching is divine, but teachers are human. Students in any class or discipline are seekers of truth. Unless they seek truth, they can never attain enlightenment. And it is teachers who actually enlighten them in their never-ending quest for knowledge and truth. Now, India has been the forerunner in spiritual education. For the world for centuries, our culture and civilization have been one of the prominent torchbearers on the essence of spirituality. The West has in fact always looked forward to the East on higher learning. Over centuries, in every form of art or creation, Indians have drawn inspiration from depths of spiritual understanding. The profound thoughts of conquering the West with the wisdom of Oriental learning was Swami Vivekananda's ultimate slogan. And thereafter, history has witnessed many great spiritual masters, each one of whom have almost single-handedly altered the direction of generations with their high thoughts on learning. Let me mention a quote from a tweet made by one of the globally revered spiritual gurus, the Dalai Lama. He said, now I quote, "Everyone appreciates kindness, but unfortunately, our modern education system, with its materialistic goals, doesn't have much room for inner values. We need to make people more aware of such inner values on the basis of scientific findings, common sense, and common experience." Now, wonderfully put, especially the reference to common sense. Masterminds from the spiritual world have emphasized on the need for inner learning, self-development, and realization. Many of us here may have already tried to inculcate these thoughts and adopt some habits in our daily lives with the hope of practicing spirituality. But then, how have we explained spirituality to ourselves? Is it a habit that needs to be practiced, or is it a path that needs to be distinctly adopted in our lives? We need to actually interpret spirituality before linking it with ways of learning and self-improvement. As our esteemed panelists today elaborate on the thoughts of spirituality, I would only like to make a very brief, emphatic statement. To me, spirituality is a way of life. It exists just as we breathe and indulge in other important activities. It's a source of enlightenment that constantly rejuvenates us with positive thoughts, positive feelings, emotions, and empathy. Here we learn how to submit to God and perhaps give up our own ego, which is a very important aspect of life. With whatever notion we start in our lives, whatever beliefs and strengths, we still have to acquire more and conquer higher. Life always brings forth invincible challenges that we need to outmaneuver, and spirituality is perhaps the only proven and traversed path that can provide some direction to this. The current education model leaves little space for development of inner values, and hence the need for sports extracurricular activities. We are squeezed with the need for standardized testing and achieve performance-oriented targets in life. Spirituality, on the other hand, helps evoke indispensable inner qualities that transcend and unify learning, giving it a higher purpose. Now, the importance of inner goals could be easily instilled in our learning goals and may not be treated as a separate exercise at all. Many schools in India, Burrett also mentioned this, have made yoga mandatory for such purposes. India boasts of yoga that is deeply rooted to the country's mythology. It's also a wonderful method of combining physical and mental exercise in gaining self-control and confidence. It's important to practice yoga to ensure health, agility, mental well-being. It's the most simple form of exercise which can be practiced anytime, anywhere, and without any equipments. All you need is a flat surface to stand on. Now, Indians celebrate the International Yoga Day in various parts of the globe, including New York City and several other cities in US, where thousands of Americans display the yoga positions at Times Square, Manhattan, and other key locations. It's a true sight of pride and excellence, a celebration of spirituality in the real sense. Now, many outstanding leaders have believed in spirituality and its remarkable significance in their lives, just like Mahatma Gandhi and Albert Einstein. Scientists have also proposed spirituality deeply supports the development process, but have not been able to converge on the underlying reasons for which it happens. To quote Einstein, "Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind." He told William Hermans in an interview that God is a mystery, but a comprehensible mystery. I have nothing but awe when I observe the laws of nature. While some scientists have stated that spiritual capacity is cultivated, others say that we are born with it. I personally think all of us stand an equal chance to champion the cause of spirituality in our lives. Self-realization is also independent of what kind of religious thoughts we indulge in and the kind of religious orientations we have. All roads lead to Rome is a famous proverb and possibly the most celebrated statements made in history. I think with spirituality, it's all the same. It's how we embrace it as a way of life and how we decide to fine-tune our goals of inner learning by submitting to God. Thus, education, the way I look at it from a broader perspective, have two different dimensions to it. First, the more evident one is imparting of domain knowledge in any given discipline with an objective of equipping the students with skills that will be needed for advancement of the society. Second, the more finer one and the more important one is inculcating values which will take care of the intent without which even the best of skills are useless or at times counterproductive to a larger social interest. Like a well-trained scientist who may be helping the terrorists with producing chemical or biological weapons, which only leads to misery and suffering of fellow citizens. Thus, equipping students with best-in-class domain skills, which can change the world, but without inculcating the right set of values, is very dangerous, as they may not be enlightened enough to choose the right direction. Thus, it's like giving a loaded AK-47 to a monkey. Values like empathy, sharing, caring, thinking of a larger social good can only come from an upbringing with a healthy spiritual diet. If spirituality is to be completely embraced by our education system, our students will not only make a living in this physical world, but also make living a success and experience every moment of life as new, every day as a day of uplift and blessing, and enjoy lasting peace. I sincerely thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. I look forward to the enlightening views of the esteemed panel on this topic. Over to you, Shubhayu.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for that wonderful presentation and your thoughts. Without keeping the audience waiting any further, I will now proceed to introduce our guest speakers who we all have been waiting to listen to. Our first guest speaker today is Miss Mynoo, Miss Mynoo Maryel. Ms. Mynoo Maryel is a transformational guru, an artist, and an author. She was formerly a high-flying executive and a pragmatic serial entrepreneur in Europe, Asia, and Australia. Beginning in 2010, Mynoo Maryel, formerly known as Mynoo Blackburn, experienced a series of spiritual awakenings and connected with the true mission of her soul. She is now the founder and visionary for the Poem Foundation, where Poem stands for Palace of Extraordinary Miracles, a movement dedicated to making miracles the new norm. The Poem's initiatives include transformational media, vitality and wellness programming, lifestyle products and services, and eco-luxury resort and retreat development. It is our privilege to have Ms. Mynoo with us today. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shubhayu, and inspiring to hear you talk about spirituality, Achin, and Philip Barrett. It was truly inspirational to hear an educationalist bring in spirit into the mind, body, soul aspect of education. So I'm really delighted to be here sharing with you. So I'm going to begin by first talking about what I see as spirituality. What is spirituality? Spirituality is connection to spirit. So what does it feel like when you are connected to spirit? You are spirited. What does this mean? You're full of energy, you have enthusiasm, and you have determination. And this enables you, and what enables you to feel this way is spirituality. Spirituality is often referred to as something, a force that is bigger than us. And this force that is bigger than us is in fact that soul being that we talk about, which is really an essence of the creator that created everything. So that actually resides within us. And that is what I see as spirituality, something that gets you to be full of energy and feel enthusiastic and determined. So my talk is about sharing specific tips and ways that enrich that spiritedness in you. Now let's look at education. What is education? Education is the experience that is assimilated from a process of learning. Processes can include teaching, instruction, schooling, and so on. So in my world, education is an enlightening experience. And this enlightening experience emerges as a result of connection of the dots through the process of learning. So throughout my talk today, my intention is to deliver an enlightening experience that leaves you filled with energy, enthusiasm, and determination. Give you specific insights and tips, and focus particularly on 3 ways that educate you to enrich the spiritedness in you in any situation. You can apply this for yourself. You can apply this as you teach your students. You can apply this as you practice being a parent or being a student yourself. To make all our talks that we are going to be having here, as well as the Q&A, truly enriching, I invite you to listen in a certain way. So the first piece is I invite you to acknowledge and quieten that little voice in your head. The one that is saying, what little voice is she talking about? Acknowledge it and quieten it. Now, doing so, it allows you to be fully present. The second piece is to become aware of listening filters. So if I was to come here, on this talk and say, I'm Mynoo Maryel and I'm a politician, bang, your listening filter for a politician would come down, whatever that may be. And whatever I said, you will be listening to it through that filter. And we do this all the time. We do this with our students. We do this with each other. We do this in our family. We do this even with ourselves. You know, we often just have these filters coming down and we listen to whatever is being said through those filters. And that diminishes our ability to really receive what is actually being communicated. So if you notice any judgment coming in, it's a filter that's down. Just imagine yourself removing that filter and get present again. So in everything that I share, you can apply all of this as a teacher, as a parent, and as a student. And even as adults, we really are students of life. So, you know, we are students as much as we are teachers and parents. So apply it. So here we go, the first way. The first way is what I stand for, which is to expect and accept miracles. They are the norm. Now, to be able to really talk a little bit more about that, I'll just take you through a very quick snapshot of my journey. I was born and brought up in India, educated here, and landed up spending most of my adult life in England. India is a very spiritual land, and it is also the best place in the world to train you for the competitive world out there. And I made the most of it, entering and flourishing at the top echelons of British industry, European industry, policymakers, global innovators. And what happened was I found myself as a hamster. Certainly often I saw myself as a hamster on 3 wheels, and sometimes there were more wheels, moving very, very fast and staying in the same place. Life was so busy that I never even got a chance to notice what was missing. There was always something bigger, better, higher, grander to strive for. I became a master of the do race, of winning the do race. And despite a few hair-raising roller coaster experiences, and I found that I had everything that I had on my vision boards and life goals that got achieved. And despite all of that, I got to a point in life where I was just really left with this question, so what? What now? I didn't have an answer to that. One thing led to another. I became very ill in London, and as a result of recuperating from that illness, went to Bali for 3 weeks, stayed there for 9 years, connected to the calling of my soul. And that, when I connected to the calling of my soul, a precursor to that was a choice I made for myself, which was to live an extraordinary life where all aspects of life can coexist with ease, grace, and joy. And I decided, okay, I'm going to connect to the calling of my soul. And the interesting thing is, and this is a real privilege for all of us who are born here in India, that, you know, we do have the spirit of this nation, the spiritedness that resides in the soil and the waters of this country that is there at a cellular level within us. And whenever we make that choice to connect to our calling, literally all the dots start connecting very, very rapidly. What had also occurred, even though I had gone into the competitive world and I was, you know, out there hobnobbing with the great and the good in the competitive arena, there was something in me that actually got ingrained from when I was a very little girl. And I spent a lot of my early years in Mathura and Vrindavan. And as a result of that, I developed this strange habit, feels strange now, at the time when I had it, it wasn't, where I would go exploring. I would literally escape from home and I would go exploring through underground passages at old palaces and old temples. And Mathura Vrindavan gave us lots and lots of opportunity to do that. So at a deep cellular level, those experiences and whatever wisdom at an energetic level was received by me was there. I just had shut it off. So when I went into, okay, right, I am ready now. I'm connecting to the calling of my soul. Dots got connected. And voila, it was there. I knew that the calling of my soul is to connect humans and humanity to the miracle that they are. And the key thing to look at there is, well, what is a miracle? A miracle is where something beautiful occurs that makes your heart sing. In any situation, whatever it may be, however tough it may be, however uncertain it may seem, in any situation, if your heart is beating, there is a miracle there. And it's simply a matter of making the connection. what is making my heart sing right now? You can transform your perspective of any situation by simply pulling out something that you are born with, which is your own miracle lens. And you can start choosing to look at, what is this lens showing me? A miracle lens is a zoom lens. It literally zooms in on what's making your heart sing. So right now, if I was to zoom in and look at it, I would say what's making my heart sing is, all of us here talking about a subject that is really dear to me, spirituality and education. Seeing so many of you step out and be here, participate in this, and that deep sense of gratitude that I have for the openness that all of you teachers and parents that are logged in, listening to this have. Deep sense of appreciation I have for Notebook, for putting something together. Gratitude to Meghna for reconnecting after our time in Manhattan to bring all of this together. The sound of my voice, it's clear, the technology is working. You see, there's so many things that are present. The moment I zoom in, I find that they are there, that are making my heart sing. Now, here's what happens. I am connected to the spiritedness of me. I am energized. I'm uplifted. And I'm determined to keep life running that way. And I am connecting the dots, so becoming enlightened, through the experiences of connecting the dots, as I'm observing very deeply, learning at a very deep level, education comes in. Within a short moment, there are so many things that we notice. And you can imagine in 1 second, there are so many moments. And there are at least 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour and so on. So if you are to become a master of living your life connected to the spirit of you, experiencing and enjoying the spiritedness that aliveness brings to your life, all you have to do is to go on a miracle binge. Your observation capabilities will transform. Your vibrations will be uplifted. And from that space, you can tackle anything that you are learning. Your absorption abilities are accentuated. As a parent, you'll be able to be to the point in your communication. And since your vibration is going to be high, then your communication will be received as such. As a teacher, it enables you to uplift, enrich, and enjoy the journey of teaching in any environment. And this is particularly relevant in the context of the new norm, which is the second piece that I wish to talk about. The world as we know it has changed. The COVID phenomenon, the phenomenon of the crown, Corona stands for the crown, has changed the world as we know it. We are not ever going back to the way it was. And every time, if any of you has any doubt, there is some more influx or the other, there's an extended lockdown or something or the other happens, and the thought that the world was going to open again is interrupted. So just know, this scale of coming together of the planet, where humans have gone back to within themselves, learning to connect to the spirit of themselves, learning to honor their own worthiness, even if they have been in difficult situations. The fact that a choice is being made by them to honor their own worthiness, from that space, you start honoring that in others. And the whole world is going through this together. So, when a family goes through a crisis or friends go through a crisis, we always remain connected. There's a camaraderie that develops. Here's a camaraderie of the world that has taken place. Very powerful in terms of really interrupting those deep-seated foundations of conflicts. We now have what I call as the 10 commandments of the new norm. Just like the tablet of Moses, when he received it, that created the world order for the world that has just been. We now have the new norm, the 10 commandments of the new norm. I'm so grateful to be sharing it with people around the world. And Not sure whether we'll have time to go through all 10, but there are a few key ones that are absolutely essential as for all of us here, particularly those who are in the education system, those of you who are teachers. It has a fundamental impact on education. So the 10 commandments of the new norm. Number 1, unknown is the known. Number 2, uncertainty is certain. Number 3, change is constant. Number 4, the thriving instinct is called for. It's beyond survival. When you operate from a thriving instinct, survival is taken care of. Number 5, take nothing for granted is the modus operandi. I will just read out the 10 commandments and then we'll zone in on a few of these. Number 6, there is an up-leveling that is called for from being aligned around something to actually experiencing a flow within yourself, to actually arriving at a place where you feel completely, fully coherent. Up-leveling from alignment to flow to coherence. Number 7, unconditional acceptance is the WD-40, the lubricant that lubricates expansion. This applies to corporations, to educational establishments, as well as to individuals. Number 8, there is a move from sustainable to regenerative. It's not enough to have sustainable agriculture. The call is for regenerative agriculture. It's not enough to have habits that, and ways of inculcating good habits, which is sustainable. What is important, and this is really important as teachers, where you're bringing in education, which enlightens by connecting the dots through a learning process. Teach the students to get into a realm of experiencing regenerativeness. So these habits, once inculcated, can regenerate themselves. It's a move from spectacular results to extraordinary results. And extraordinary results is a combination of unprecedented performance, operational excellence, transforming quality of life. And all three for the person themselves, for their stakeholders, which includes their family members, their guardians, their teachers, and in the context of business, their investors, and for the planet itself. So in terms of the education system, the shifts that are going to take place there, where you're focusing on thriving, if you actually make that education system link much more to extraordinary results, where you are actually educating the students to address these three pieces together: unprecedented performance beyond just numbers, operational excellence, and transforming quality of life for yourself, your stakeholders, and the planet. And number 10, there is a move, a very definite move, from command and control to collaborative co-creation of coexistence. So now the emphasis is on education, not simply instruction, schooling, or teaching. The learning process with the intention of education, which is the experience of enlightenment by connecting the dots through the learning process. That is your deliverable as a teacher. Real education. As a teacher, you are accountable for educating. And as a student, you're accountable for being educated. And as a parent, you're educating and getting educated. It's a dance that you play out. So what does this actually mean for you? So if you're a student listening to this, what does it actually mean for you? There's a very definite shift that is taking place in terms of careers. What does that mean in terms of subjects that you take on? What does that mean in terms of what kind of jobs will be available? There are job titles you haven't even heard of. There are probably job no titles. A thriving instinct is what you are preparing your students for. So what does that mean in terms of the content in your curriculum? What does that mean in terms of how you deliver this? Thriving instinct and collaborative co-creation of coexistence. It made me recall a time I had with Radhanath Swami Maharaj of ISKCON. We were in Govardhan Eco Village, just outside Mumbai. And we were sharing our adventures in Vrindavan. So, I had gone there, exploring underground passages in old temples and old palaces. And he had a whole collection of tales. Some of the passages I had explored, he had hidden in when he was a young boy and his visa had run out. So it was really interesting to explore some of those hideouts. And what we found ourselves doing was we started talking about Krishna Leelas. It was a very interesting conversation about Krishna Leelas. And now when I reconnect to the Krishna Leelas, what I see is he completely operated from the thriving instinct. Every Leela that you take, his action, the way he went about it, was very strategic, and it was completely coming from a thriving instinct. That was at the core of Krishna's thinking. And even from if you take the example of lifting of Govardhan, he was God. He could have stopped the rain. He chose to honor the weather gods, work with the environment instead, fulfilling the needs of the people to feel safe and the needs of the earth to receive the water, lifted Govardhan instead. How he tamed Hasta, the raging bull. Rather than treating it as something that was out to destroy, he connected to the magnificence of the beingness of this bull. It got tamed, he was able to ride it. Kalia, the battle with Kalia, he honored its prowess and worked with it until they reconnected to their own magnificence, honoring him and lifting him on the top of his head. Each Leela has so many significant insights on practicing the thriving instinct. And if you look at each of the Leelas, especially these really big challenging ones, all of these aspects of the new norm were present. Unknown was the known. Uncertainty was certain. Change was constant. It wasn't simply about survival. Survival is all about win-lose. And it keeps you surviving. Thriving, on the other hand, brings in with it a very powerful vibrational uplifting experience of celebration. And when you look at your own life, you will find there are so many examples where you have operated from a thriving instinct. And if you're a parent, often you've come from the space of a thriving instinct when it comes to your children. And as a teacher, some of the best teachers that I have had operated from a thriving instinct. And it was a collaborative co-creation of coexistence. I have used this so powerfully in bringing about a change in behavior, not just of my son when he was little, my grandson when he was a tiny little baby. It was interesting, this little baby, and we have a video of him. He's like a few days old and he's experiencing colic or whatever he is. And all we did was chant Om. And my son was carrying him. I chanted Om. By the time he got to the third Om, this baby was silent and he was calm. And this happened all the time. And what that was we were honoring this child and allowing it to express its discomfort and offering something that would support it rather than get stressed and agitated about it, adding to an already agitated vibration that the child was experiencing and therefore exasperating and multiplying that. The third piece that I wish to talk about is being versus doing. I was a master of the do race. I was a master of winning it. I won it. And then I learned to be. And I even wrote a book called The Bee Book, which you can get from Crosswords or online. The audiobook is available for a free download. If you don't have Audible, you can have a free download of that. Be is a state of being in a particular vibration over a sustained period of time. And what I would like to share here is a story of how I came upon this being approach. I lived in Bali. In Bali, we have a new year each year. It's called Nearpy. On Nearpy Day, everything comes to a grinding halt. The airports are closed. There's no electricity. You turn it off. Everything is closed. There are no scooters allowed. Nobody's even allowed to walk out. You just stay at home. As this hoity-toity, corporate executive, I could have gone down the route of, what is this? I'm a tourist. I'm staying in this hotel. I should be treated differently and stuff. And I chose to go along with it and decided to do my meditation. And in that meditation practice, I received a very powerful message, which was, well, choose a B word. And I said, okay, I'm going to be miraculous. Right, what's a miracle? A miracle is where something beautiful occurs that makes my heart sing. Okay, so if you're going to be miraculous, you're in this villa and you're going to look for what is making your heart sing. Nearby Day is a day of silence also. So it was my boot camp of becoming a drishta, of becoming an observer. And I started observing, from the mosquito netting that was surrounding my bed. And I realized, wow, it feels like I'm sleeping on a throne or something, and then I go out and I look at the swimming pool, I go into the pool, and I had not noticed how well the gardener had planted the plants that were lining the edges of the swimming pool. That was the first time I noticed it. And I noticed that the different layers of plants actually attracted different types of butterflies. And as I'm noticing this, so many things are making my heart sing, right? I start hearing a rustle of leaves. And then I hear a different type of rustle of leaves. And I realize that, wow, each tree, the way the leaves rustle, they actually create a very different sound. Magic just started unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. I got out of the pool as I walked towards the Ganesha statue that was there at the gate. I put my lotus lily flower on it and I turned around and right there on the ground was a cobra with its hood straightened up. And I'm looking at it. At this time, I'm looking at it through this being miraculous. Such a phenomenal, handsome creature is looking at me. And as I'm looking at it, admiring it, it just goes away. And then I come back in and it's nighttime. There's no electricity. I walk into my room. I go into my mosquito netting and I have 5 different fireflies in the room. And the whole magic of the firefly dance begins, And from
sorry for interrupting. I'm really sorry, but it's going a little bit over time. We have some other speakers on board, so please kindly,
Yes.
Yes.
So my invitation to you is to have a B list, not simply a to-do list. So what are you going to be today? Allow the doing to flow and your intentions are fulfilled and you enjoy the journey as you go along, doing whatever you're doing. So use the miracle lens. Thriving instinct is what counts. Work with your B list. Listen without the filters and you got it. Educated with the lightness of being, feeling energized, enthused, and determined. And then simply go forth and multiply. As teachers, as students, as parents, as co-creators of collaboration and coexistence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mynoo. That was absolutely magnificent. Here at Notebook, watching students, millions of them, use our platform every day. That's our miracle. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts with us. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we will now introduce our second guest speaker for the day. Our second guest speaker is Ms. Prerana Langa. She is the head of the Roundglass Foundation. Prerana Langa is passionate about building innovative ecosystems for social impact. She set up 2 corporate foundations from scratch and is currently working to accelerate transformation of an entire state in India. She was a key member to set up Yes Foundation, which is a social development arm of the Yes Bank, and part of the 2-member founding team to set up ICICI Foundation for Inclusive Growth, which is the social development of ICICI Bank. She led the corporate social responsibility for ICICI group of companies. She is currently the head of Roundglass Foundation, which is working on the well-being of the individual communities and the planet in over 500 villages in Punjab. She has a professional experience spanning over 2 decades, working on a range of innovative and scalable programs across education, health, financial inclusion, environment, youth leadership, fellowships, community partnerships, capacity building of civil society, and poverty alleviation. She has developed innovative and world record breaking media for social change movement with a focus on nurturing youth to emerge as change makers and strengthening non-profits or enterprises to maximize their social impact. She's a spokesperson for social impact across platforms in India, Hong Kong, Singapore, China, Amsterdam, and Canada. She's a visiting guest lecturer at the IIMs and ISB and has appeared across mainstream media, including CNBC and the Economic Times. She is a trustee of the Dwara Trust, which was formerly known as the IFMR Trust, and an advisory board member of the Raintree Foundation. She is passionate about social issues, volunteering with nonprofits, and mentoring young leaders. Prerana holds a master's degree in business management and a diploma in CSR and sustainability from the Swedish Institute and from the World Bank and Harvard University South Asia Institute. Ma'am, it's our pleasure and privilege having you with us. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Am I clear? Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Okay, superb. So thanks a lot, Subhaya, for the introduction, and thanks to Achin and Meghna for inviting me. It was wonderful to hear Professor Burrett, and of course, feel absolutely great to be on the same platform. To Mynoo, who has been a mentor to my miracles, and to Gaurav, who has enabled me to emerge the way I have. So what is not there in my long biodata is that I'm also an Art of Living teacher, and I have been meditating very regularly for the last 20 years, practically on a daily basis. So I feel particularly happy to be here and to be addressing dearest teachers and principals, because being a teacher in a volunteer capacity, I know the feeling of wanting, students to benefit and having the greatest pleasure when you see their success. It's sometimes even more than our own success. So given that the topic is spirituality, and spirituality is about oneness, I would like to keep our conversation one-to-one, and I would like to keep our conversation informal. And I would like to leave some time to actually hear you and answer your questions. So I would like to start with, as all of us are aware, in India, we have 50 lakh graduates every year, right? So you can imagine that clearly they are all educated, they all have the same degree. Then what is it that enables some to achieve, and what is it that enables some to super achieve? In my own experience, I feel when you have IQ, which is uniform, of course, no doubt there are certain people that come out from IITs and IIMs. But even within that, say, all of us are from IIM Ahmedabad. Of course, all of us have a higher chance of achieving success. But what is it that makes somebody successful? And my answer to that is success is about having the confidence in your own self-worth and in your own self-abilities, that come what may, you will thrive. And from where does that come from? So I would say that comes from spirituality. Earlier we used to hear a lot of terms like IQ, and then for the last 25 years we are hearing terms like EQ. Now I would like to introduce a special term called SQ. SQ is spirituality quotient, and I believe that gives you a competitive advantage. Earlier people thought that if you're spiritual, then you should be out in the Himalayas meditating, and there's no place for you in this world, right? Because spirituality was about escaping and about being in isolation. But to me, spirituality is about oneness. Spirituality is how do you live your life to the fullest. And as my earlier speakers said so too, it's about blossoming. How do you live every moment of your life to the fullest? In our education system, In India, we learn a lot about history, we learn about geography, we learn about so many subjects, right? But what we don't learn about is how do we handle our own mind? You know, how do you handle your mind? How do you handle yourself? What also we are not told in life, and I wish I knew earlier, that life is not only about happiness, right? Everybody says, wish you happiness. So I assume that life is only going to be happy. I didn't know that, you know, the ups and downs, there are downs also. So I was not prepared to face downs. So I would like to see as to how, you know, education system can inculcate. And there are certain institutions and there are people who are on this platform and listening to us who are already doing significant work with their students on reflections, on meditation, on having, you know, of how do you handle your emotions. But I wish it was to a greater extent. Because if you see, you know, what was the first thing we did when we were born? Any guesses? I know you can't answer, so I'll answer for you. The first thing we did was we took a breath in. And what is the last thing we will do? Is we'll take a breath out. So life is between the first breath in and the last breath out. And right now, the only thing that is in the present moment is a breath. But, you know, are we even aware of it? While you're listening to me, are you aware that you're breathing? And the breath is so powerful. It's like so powerful. In fact, did you know? Okay, let me ask you a question. When you are happy, you know, how is your breath? You can put it on the chat, I guess. If you actually, I would like more interaction, but I guess this format is slightly limiting. But no problem, I will answer for you. So if you notice that when you're happy, the breath is calm and relaxed, right? It's calm, rhythmic, relaxed. And when you're agitated and angry, how's your breath? Ruffled, uneven. So it's interesting to know. It's interesting to know that you know, in terms of how is the breath connected to emotions. There's a direct connect between the breath and emotions. And the good news is that it is a two-way street. So if your breath is calm and relaxed, automatically your state of mind is happy. And how can you get to that state? Is through spiritual practice. To different kinds of spiritual practice. Of course, I follow Art of Living, and I strongly believe like practicing Sudarshan Kriya every day brings me to that state of mind. That it's not that I'm all the time in that happy state of mind, but should something happen, I've always bounced back faster or easier. So it's quite beautiful to know, you know, these facets. And it would be beautiful to learn when we were in school. So because I cannot emphasize or overemphasize the importance of a calm and relaxed mind. And I cannot overemphasize the importance of a calm and relaxed mind with the audience that we have here, with the teachers that we have here, with the principals that we have here, with the kind of pressures that you all deal with the kind of decisions that you would need to make on a daily basis. How important is this calm and relaxed state of mind? Did you know that most of the inventions happen with a calm and relaxed state of mind? For example, did you know when Newton discovered the law of gravity? When he was sitting peacefully under a tree and he was just looking around, and then he saw an apple falling. And then he realized in terms of the law of gravity, that's how he was able to get into the depth of it. Or the importance of like even Archimedes, when did he come out with his principle? when he was getting into a bathtub, and he's found that, the amount of water that got displaced was the amount that, in terms of when he went in. So that is the importance of calm and relaxed state of mind. I strongly believe that, in fact, the most busiest people should meditate. It takes like 30 minutes of meditation is equivalent to 4 hours of sleep. So you have to pull the arrow backwards for the arrow to go ahead with focus and precision. And that's the importance of spirituality and meditation. And that's the importance of learning it young. I believe in my own life, while I may have not been from the topmost institution in terms of an MBA, but the reason I went ahead in my life was because of meditation, because of the feeling of oneness, because of the openness of hearts. In a corporate situation, I did not feel any barrier between me and the managing director of the company, because I saw the person as another person, and there was no like difference. I was able to communicate better. I also believe that with this calm mind, even the way we process things, we communicate things, it's just refines all of that. So I think spirituality and education are like interconnected. I also want to leave you with in the interest of time. I know that I have very few minutes left. I also wanted to talk about some of the work that I am doing. I'm in fact working to transform the state of Punjab. And right now, as Professor Burrett mentioned about this whole thing of social and emotional learning, we are bringing it to the schools in Punjab, in the government schools of Punjab. And in fact, like, Mynoo mentioned that this COVID phenomenon is a time to thrive and to have that thriving, instinct and see how things flow. We took this COVID phenomenon as a challenge. We knew that with our government schools in Punjab, because the poorest of the poor families send their children to government schools in Punjab, people who can even afford a bit would send their kids to private schools. So most of the families, very few families had smartphones, and they use data very sparingly. So we said we cannot leave our children in the dark just because they don't have access like urban school children to Google Meet and Zoom. It does not mean that we will leave them out. So in fact, the head of learning of Roundglass Foundation, Natalia, she came out with a very innovative way to reach out to the children. So we started sending them challenges, and we formed groups with the school teachers and principals. And on a daily basis, we would send them challenges connected to science, technology, arts, random acts of kindness, and fitness. So what started with a small experiment turned out to be a super success. In last 2 months, we got 42,000 entries and active participation. And we did an impact assessment to see as to where are children faring on social emotional learning. And as part of the challenges, we used to send them like, water a plant, recycle, upcycle. We taught them how to make colors because they can't go out of their houses. Form kitchen items. How do you make colors out of haldi, out of different things, and create your own painting, gift it to your grandfather, speak to your grandmother and ask her about her story when she was small and how there was a sense of belongingness. And we also did like things like circle time, where we would call kids to ask them and encourage them to express their feelings about, the COVID situation. And at the end of the call, we would ask them, what can you be grateful for? And we found it very, very nice to know that the children were grateful that the alcohol shops were shut. They said, thanks to the alcohol shops being shut, our fathers are not drinking and there is harmony at home. And we found like a change in behavior in terms of children watering plants, children feeding birds and animals. And for us, that is like great satisfaction. Of course, there's a lot more that we have to do. And I would like to end on the note of I have personally experienced that the only way to increase your own joy. Of course, one way to increase joy is meditation, and I would urge and I would nudge all of you to experience meditation. It's like, oh, outstanding. So that few minutes of bliss, that few minutes of being with yourself is amazing. So that is one way. And the way to keep it is, if you want to, share joy, the only way to increase your joy is by sharing. So I would encourage you, and I'd be happy to share through Meghna, in terms of opportunities that we have for you, to volunteer remotely for you and your students, age 16 and above, to volunteer remotely with a government school kid, and share with the government school kid. It's like 15 minutes for 6 times, and we will train. I am also happy to share with you. We have developed these beautiful learning challenges, 60 of them, to improve social emotional learning. I'm happy to share that also with you. Really look forward to being in touch. I wish we were personally meeting, but really from my heart to yours, great to connect, and look forward to working together to making India better and to making the world better. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing those wonderful stories with us. Absolutely heartwarming to see the kind of work you're doing for the kids in Punjab. We work with a lot of government schools, both in UP and West Bengal, and the kind of ecosystem that they are growing up with, any amount of help that we can do is greatly needed, and any amount of help we can do is going to fall short.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to our next speaker for today. Our next speaker today is Mr. Gaurav Gupta. Gaurav is an investment banker who's turned a serial entrepreneur. He's incubated and led several businesses and institutions in the Indian marketplace with global footprints. He's always interested in the power of novel ideas to change the world. With that interest in mind, Gaurav brought the TED Talks to India as the ambassador for TEDx, a program that has expanded to over 33,000 events in the last decade. To fulfill his passions to bring great ideas to light, Gaurav has curated several large TEDx events in the country and created Minds Ignited, a platform that amplifies local ideas with global impact. Gaurav is the CEO and co-founder of the Federation 100, a venture collective of high-performance businesses in India and the US, and Maryel Inc., that brings to life technologies, products, and services that help people live a life of joy and fulfillment. Gaurav is a lawyer, CFA, and CA by education. Gaurav, pleasure having you with us today. Over to you. I think you're on mute, Gaurav.
Thank you, Achin. Am I audible now?
Yeah, loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Achin and Meghna for inviting me to the esteemed panel. And I want to thank all the panelists for the ideas that have been shared today. Have been truly enriching, and it's been an absolute privilege to be part of this panel. Want to thank all of you for being here today and taking part in this panel on spirituality and education. So I will begin by sharing that in the context of spirituality and education, my submission is that there is a context of the lived experience of life that is often ignored. As you might have noticed in my profile, there are too many degrees. So I have a deep relationship with education, been deeply interested in learning, and I went on to do 3 different degrees, even so much so that gave an attempt to the Indian IS services. And since that time, I have had various roles in various organizations, yet my search for an inner lived experience in a way that is my way of interpreting spirituality has always been on top of my mind. And that exploration has led me to various spiritual schools. I have learned Vipassana meditation and have been a regular meditator for many years, and have explored various ways in which we can explore our inner self in a more deeper way, and to understand life and relate to life and the world in a better way. And what I've realized through all of this is that there was very little from my from my formal education that comes and becomes present to the context of um, a great experience of life lived. And there is something missing from the education system that's always been present to me. I've engaged with the education system as a TED ambassador, uh, bringing TED Talks to a number of schools, learning new education methodologies and new challenges which were being presented in terms of technological developments that are taking place in the market. However, spirituality is something which has never presented itself as an urgent need that shows up in the education systems of today. And there's a realization that the education systems were never designed to deliver on an individual having a great lived experience of life. If you look at the purpose of the education system as been defined by various nations and their national education bodies, it usually ranges from shifting to a learning society, or building a society where values are as important as learning. Seldom does it refer itself to a great lived experience of a human life. So if you look at the Indian education system, it really developed from a need that the British government had of large clerical staff that could look after the needs of the British Empire, be the bulwark of the governance structure that they had put in place. In the later years, however, there have been massive improvements in this system, and now the schooling system is able to foundation the young minds in learning as much as it does about physical phenomena to give survival and success skills. Also, a lot of mega skills are being taught to children now in the education system. Elements like confidence and hard work and teamwork and problem solving, even perseverance. If you look at the higher education systems, they are primarily driven by the job markets, by the economic systems. And in a way, this need to fulfill the needs of the job markets and the economic systems is percolated back into the primary and secondary education systems as well, where there's a lot of emphasis on preparing our young ones for the future market, preparing for the change that's going to come in the future market. There is another layer which has come up in recent times, and that is the skilling industry. That industry has received unprecedented attention to prepare the young minds and hence in some cases, because most of the industry has gone digital now, for the capitalist industrial systems, so to say, and preparing all of them for a life which is promised as a life of prosperity and success. And then there is the other school altogether of entrepreneurship, which has taken roots and has gotten really, big in recent times. A lot of youngsters have, taken a lot of risk, put themselves forward, gone into the difficult area of being an entrepreneur, and many have succeeded. And if they haven't succeeded, they have succeeded in other ways of learning to fail, learning to get up again after you have fallen. They have learned all of those skills. If you look at what was being promised by the job market and the economic system on one side, and the entrepreneurship wave and the schooling system, it's a promise of a successful life. It's a promise of job opportunities, often not fulfilled because of whatever reasons in the economic markets. Yet, what's not being spoken of and often felt as the most important thing when it comes to the lived experience of life is a fulfilled life. And we like to call it a fulfilled extraordinary life. The fulfilled extraordinary life is a life where you have unprecedented performance, which is something that allows you to continue on your journey of life, constantly creating and evolving at all levels. It has operational excellence, which is all about character and the power of your word, something that offers the ability to be what Stephen Covey calls highly effective. And there is transforming the quality of life, which is about constantly upgrading yourself, your society, and your planet. And if you look at all of these, if the aim of your life is to have a great lived experience of life, and in that to have a holistic life, which we call a fulfilled, extraordinary life. Each of these aspects you would fulfill for yourself, you would fulfill for your social, familial, and transactional circles, and you will fulfill it for the planet. So if you're doing all of that, you will continue to have a fulfilled experience of life. In turn, it will give you a great lived experience. So the question has been, why is that important? Um, it is important often because uh, you know we have learned, like I have at least learned in my own life through my own spiritual journey, that no matter what my level of success has been or what kind of failures or breakdowns I have gone through, what has not mattered is the material outcome of um, of the journey of my life. What has really mattered is what's been the experience of life that I have had. It's a sum total of this highlight reel of various memories, which is of course limited by the limited mind I have, and it is the highlight reel of all the summits and all the nadis, so to speak, in my life. And it has got nothing to do with what material success is, what material prosperity is. Um, and that's a quest that I have, and we have as a business. As you shared, Achin, earlier, we have a business called Federation 100, which works with businesses to help them have extraordinary results, while at the same time having an extraordinary personal life and ensuring they do that for their stakeholders as well as for the planet. We have another business called Miracles Inc., which delivers this for individuals, for them to create, fulfilling lives for themselves. So it's a quest that is not something which is not even being talked about by the education system. It's not being fulfilled. And primarily that's because the very purpose with which the education systems were designed were not meant to lead to that. So my submission is that, most of our formative years, we spent most of our time learning about only a few aspects of a lived experience, which are limiting, which are material in nature. And the other aspects, which is the spiritual side of life, are often left to chance. It is believed that the home system or family or personal evolution of the human being will take care of that. And the aspect here to understand is that these are skills that could be learned. It's only that they have not been delivered to us early enough. Now, there are lots of systems online that offer various kinds of skills training in emotional intelligence and so on that allow you to have better lived experiences in life. So if you look at what that is, I feel it's a sum total of the skills that you require to live a more spiritually connected life at an individual level. And these skills could include skills like dealing with failure, living a life of personal mastery, thriving in uncertainty, living a culture of game in your personal life, a practice that you build, building sustainable chosen habits for yourself, building exquisite relationships, listening really to receive and create, and receiving and giving love. This is something which is not taught to us at any level in the education system. This is so important for having a great lived experience of life, just to know how to receive love and to know how to give love. Um, so a better lived experience by learning about living a holistic life that is fulfilling and extraordinary all at once as a result of, uh, you know, uh, focusing on achieving the full potential of the individual personally, eh, as a member of the society and for the planet. If that were the goal of the education system, it would just radically change the way we all have lived experiences of our life. And I feel spirituality is the foundation. And again, spirituality could be misconstrued as being religious sometimes. And we can completely make it what it is, which is it has nothing to do with religion. It has so much to do with learning these inner skills of inner exploration, of understanding oneself first. And once one has related to oneself more powerfully, it is so easy to then relate to the world in more powerful, holistic ways. So I feel bringing spirituality to the foundation of education will allow that kind of radical redesign. By including programs that allow students to explore their spiritual side, would ensure that they have necessary tools to deal with and thrive in the journey of life and live a fulfilled, extraordinary life, where it is normal to experience joy, happiness, miracles, as opposed to experiencing breakdowns, loss, and fear as something that is to be avoided. Learning to learn all of these as part of the journey and also having the skills to go past them in more powerful ways, in relating to each other, not as people who have certain kind of success and a certain kind of material success primarily, but relating to each other as fellow humans who have these various experiences of joy and happiness and miracles just as you have and as much as they have the other experiences of loss and fear, failure. To me, that's more what is required, I feel, from the education system in terms of spirituality. And my quest is still on. I am still learning and exploring how a lived experience that is filled with joy is possible on a daily basis. Um, and in this quest, I'm sure I am succeeding, and it's a journey. So it's a journey of success every day. So I hope this is useful for us to implement in our own lives, and we can learn these skills. Lots of these programs are available online. We also have a number of these programs that we are going to release in a few months through an app that is going to be available on the Play Store. And I invite all of you to engage with these essential life skills to learn to be more spiritual and to have the aim of living a more fulfilled, extraordinary life where the lived experience is something that is extraordinary. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for that wonderful, wonderful deliberation. As you rightly said, the school systems do not have today a course that deals with spirituality. And we really hope that the Together for Education webinars has gathered sufficient steam and sufficient vocalization that it will reach the right decision makers, that schools start taking spirituality more seriously, so that in case of an eventuality where students are again stuck at their homes, having to learn from homes, they're still calm, they're happy, they're peaceful. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we will now introduce to you our next guest speaker. Our next guest speaker is His Grace Ananga Mohan Prabhu from ISKCON. ISKCON, an acronym for International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Hare Krishna movement, is a worldwide organization with over 600 centers and 4 million followers. It is dedicated to spreading the non-sectarian teachings of the ancient Vedic scriptures to promote the holistic welfare of humanity. Our speaker for today from Sri Sri Radha Govinda Temple, ISKCON, Kolkata, is an expert in the field of synthesis of science and Vedas. He has done profound study of both, being inspired by the dedication and service rendered by Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON. He joined ISKCON as a full-time celibate at Sri Sri Radha Govinda Temple, ISKCON, Kolkata, for systematically teaching the sublime message of the Bhagavad Gita and its application in modern times. From 1995, he was connected to ISKCON and he dedicated his life as a full-time devotee in the year 2002. He's a youth counselor and a corporate advisor as well. Traveling all over India and outside India, he guides many students and professionals in principle-centered leadership and in the practical application of Vedas in everyday life that brings about a combination of healthy body, mind, and soul. He offers seminars on stress management, proactive leadership, time management, art of mind control, etc., in various prestigious educational institutes in India and outside India. This includes IIT Kharagpur, NIT Jamshedpur, Jadavpur University, and also different places in Bangladesh, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, London, etc. He has special popularity for his Ram Katha and Jagannath Katha and famous for his melodious kirtan. He is also a teacher for the Bhakti Shastri courses and is presently rendering his services as the Vice President of ISKCON Kolkata. He is the Kolkata Rath Yatra Chairman and the Chairperson of Communication of Eastern India Division of Council, EIDC. He is one of the masterminds behind developing the Srila Prabhupada places in Kolkata. Prabhu, it is indeed our privilege having you with us today. I would stop my share so that we can all now hear you speak.
We will start with the invocation of auspicious prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaurav Bhattacharya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. First of all, I want to thank panelists for organizing this wonderful session at this time when it is very important to have something like this online. Also, my respectful obeisances and greetings to all the wonderful speakers and great personalities who spoke beautifully on this beautiful subject matter of spirituality and education. And I'm very happy to be a part of you all today. Also, I'm very happy and I want to thank all the parents and teachers who are actually here. And this proves that we are all very sensitive and we are careful about our future, and which needs actually education as well as spirituality. So our country, in the Vedas, it is considered as, the name has been given as Bharata. So Sanskrit word Bha means knowledge and Rata means those who are the seekers of knowledge. So this country's main backbone is actually spirituality. China, everyone is talking about China now, but they are very famous about their technology. Then Middle East is very, very special for its oil. Like this, every country is having their backbone or strength, and India is known for its spirituality. Samudra Himachal, it is a Bengali word. I think all of you must be knowing Bengali also. So from Himalaya to Ganga Sagar, this taste of spirituality, this is our, it's in our veins actually, the spirituality. And definitely, education is one of the most important things that this Vedic India has offered to the whole world. So before starting, we need to also know that, even we worship Krishna and we worship Sri Ramachandra. They also went to Gurukul to establish this, that how education is very important in our life. Krishna went to Avantipur, which is Ujjain now, under Sandipani Muni. He got his teaching. I beg your pardon. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. So basically, I'm audible. You can hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. So as I was telling, even Krishna and Balaram also took education from Sandipani Muni. Also Sri Ramachandra and Lakshman, Bharat, Satrughna, all of them, they also took their teachings, and especially Ram and Lakshman got Vishwamitra Muni and Vashishta Muni also as teacher. As I started the talk, you must have noticed that I took this mantra, Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. That means I was being born in the ignorance. My teacher, my guru, who lit up a torchlight, and all the negativity has gone, and he has shown me the right eyes. So education is very important. That's why in our research we have found it out that in India, previous to British Raj, there were more than 2 lakhs gurukuls all over India, where the students were getting personally trained by the teachers. Education is very, very important. And that's why during that time, 3 things were totally free for everyone: justice, health, and definitely education. So that's why we are all devotees of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, our Nimai. He was called in Navadvip as Nimai Pandit. He used to also have a toll or a patshala or a education organization. He used to teach his students. However, education is important, knowledge is important, but how to use it in our life, and there comes the importance of spirituality. Spirituality gives moral and character, and that everything starts with hearing, Shravanam. When we hear about the scriptures, Ramayana, Mahabharata, our beautiful scriptures, they are very vividly, very beautifully, Krishna has presented to Arjun that how education makes a person so content. And spirituality helps that person to deliver it in a very beautiful way. In this regard, I will give you an example of education and spirituality, how it helps together. The example of Arjun and the example of Ashwatthama. Now, their teacher was, Dronacharya. Same teaching, same thing has been given. But because of Arjun's spirituality, which he got from Krishna as a teacher, that helped him in his deepest need when the Kurukshetra war was there. Krishna is telling Arjun that how to lead the life with the help of Bhagavad Gita. And that is the epitome book of our India to the world. That's why it has been stated, Maline mochanam pumsam jalasnanam dine dine sakrit gitamrita snanam sangsara malanashanam. That every day we take bath and we cleanse our body. But once if we take bath with the knowledge of Gita, education of Gita, spirituality of Gita, then all the sangsara malanashanam, sangsara mala means the negativity of this material world, kam, krodh, lobh, moho, mad, matsarya, this will go away. So that's why also Krishna speaks there that who gets knowledge. So when one person is hearing Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ramayana and Mahabharata, these are all spiritual books which helps a person to understand what to do with life. So that's why Krishna also speaks in Bhagavad Gita to Arjun that Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Sunichena Sapakecha Panditaha Samadarshinaha. That means that what education should give, what education education will make a person, it is Vinay. You see, all the speakers, when I was hearing all of them, so beautifully they were representing their points with such humility, such honesty. There was no arrogance. And that Vidya should get. That Vidya should bring into a person's life. Definitely to the parents, we know that to raise a child, everything is about education. It is stated in the scriptures and in the local language also. To raise a child, you need a village. And education is all about learning, but how to use that learning. We get education, we get a lot of knowledge. So it has been stated also that with power comes responsibility. And that power, how to use that power, spirituality helps a person to deal with that. In today's world, when so much negativity is there for our new future, drug addiction, alcoholism, and then so many other things which I don't want to discuss, you know very well, how that boy will save himself unless and until he has some principles of life. Every house is having some principle, every family is having some principle, and that, if you see, is actually coming from the scriptures. So that has been stated by Chanakya Pandit, that if you want to be intelligent and sharp and very, very sober, so you need to spend your time in this way. He says, Prate stri prasangyat, driprahare dhruta kridascha, ratre chaura prasangyat, kala javati dhimata. The intelligent people spend their time in this way. In a gist, Prate stri prasangrat means in the morning time you need to read Ramayana. It gives you character building. It speaks about sacrifice. It speaks about family unity. It speaks about Hanuman's team spirit. Everything. And then comes Prate Sri Prasangat means Sita Haran is there, so Ramayana. Driprahare Druta Kridascha. Druta Krida means Mahabharat. Then they read Bhagavad Gita. So we need to add, just like my previous speaker, very beautifully he represented and he spoke, that we need to add this spirituality to our education. It helps. It helps a boy or a girl, our future, how to use that knowledge for good for others. How we can become generous. So Mahabharata in the afternoon and evening, the Chaura Prasangat means the butter thief or Srimad Bhagavatam or reading about Krishna. So similarly, if you see all the great scientists, many of the great scientists like Newton, Einstein, they were very spiritual. Why? Because spirituality helps a person to lead his life with a good character. That's why in ISKCON, we are trying to offer this to all the students, all the family, all the people who are interested to know about spirituality. Spirituality makes a person very strong from within, because this material world, there will be challenges, but only knowledge won't help. That's why it needs together knowledge and spirituality. Knowledge is there, but how to use it? Then again, I'm coming back to the example of Arjun and Ashwatthama. After the Kurukshetra war, without knowing anything, because of the lack of spirituality, Ashwatthama unnecessarily, he used the Brahmastra. But Arjun controlled it. He had that power to use it, but he didn't do that. Why? Because it is not going to help others. Everyone will be destroyed. So that's why that is the power of spirituality. Yes, we need to educate our students. We need to make them, we need to take care of our future. We need to, sometimes I say it is the programming, that we need to do programming, definitely. But then with spirituality, we need to give them the flavor. A machine also understands its, if you program like this, and they will also tell this is rose, this is red in color. But then you need to understand whom to offer that, how we can reciprocate our love and affection to the other person by giving and offering that rose to them. So that's why, my dear friends, my dear family, that it is a very beautiful topic that we are going to discuss. And I'm very happy that we are discussing this. You see, even in Bengali, when I was small, I was in school. That was the best time of our life, actually, the school life. There we learned a kavita. I hope you don't mind I use some Bengali words here. আমি আশা করি সবাই বাংলা বোঝেন। তো আমরা গল্প শুনেছিলাম, we heard about this poem. বিদ্যে বোঝাই বাবু মশাই চড়েন শখের বোটে, মাঝিরে কয় বলতে পারি সূর্যি কেন ওঠে? Yes, the knowledgeable person, the educated person, you know, the meaning of this story is, the meaning of this poem is, a very intelligent and a very educated person was riding on a pleasure trip in a boat, and then he was asking to this boatman, well, do you know why the sun rises in the east? In this way he was asking a lot of questions, and this I'm sorry, so this man was asking, you know, again and again different questions, and this boatman was telling that, you know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And this man was telling, okay, you don't know this, 25% of your life is a waste. Okay, 50% of your life is a waste. Now 75% life you're a waste. And then suddenly there was a big storm coming, and at that time that boatman asked, my dear sir, my dear Prabhu, my dear respected personality, knowledgeable person, do you know how to swim? He said, well, I don't know. Then he said, 100% of your life is a waste. So there comes a need of spirituality. Yes, all of us, we know karma, we know we need to speak good, but we need to add all these things in our daily activities of our life and as well as in our education. Then it becomes a perfect thing. We need philosophy, we need culture. Spirituality is all about a culture and philosophy both, which helps a student to use their knowledge in a proper way, in a practical way, for not only for himself, for others also. And then what happens actually, after reading these things, the scriptures, he becomes spiritualized. So I request, that's like many of the wonderful speakers, they spoke about meditation. Definitely meditation, we do monthly meditation, that is very good. Also, I will request the parents and all of us, even for all of our life also, let's read this text which is there gifted from our Rishi and Munis. Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. These are our books actually. They are called Shastra. Shastra means your own weapon. With the weapon of Shastra, knowledge of these books, you cut the ignorance. In this regard, I will tell you that whatever we hear becomes our thoughts. Thought becomes words. Words becomes action. Actions becomes habit. Habit becomes nature. And nature becomes character. So if we want our students to have a good character, they need to hear wonderful spiritual things as well with education. Education will give them the bread and butter. Definitely, it will help them. Spirituality will help them to help others and help themselves also. At this time of pandemic, I'm getting so many calls that people are getting frustrated and demoralized. Yes, it is a very difficult time. However, it is also a very good time to be introspective and study all the scriptures, because we need good characters. People are there to follow. And that's why it is very important that we understand the gift which we have as Indians, as Bharatvarsha, that all the scriptures are there. From Himalaya to South India, to many other places also, everyone, the spirituality is there. There is a science of it. So that's why also I always tell that yes, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. This should be the ratio of our speaking and hearing. 2:1. When we hear good things, when it goes inside, then good things will come out. So let us all try our level best to give this beautiful inputs to all of our students, and especially to the parents. The students also learn. Yes, teachers are giving certain things at in a certain time, but you are also their teacher. How you talk among each other, how you behave with each other as a family, that is also a part of the education. Because children, students, they imitate, they learn things. So as a Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's follower, I will give you two things from my side. As many of our exalted speakers have already spoken, that let us all have some time for the students. For the mantra meditation, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And second is, let them give the gift of the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita. In ISKCON, also we are trying and doing a lot of drug rehabilitation programs, mantra meditation programs, which we are bringing a lot of positivity among students. So I wish you all the best. In a quick recap, we started with Bharata. The meaning of Bharata means our country, the seekers of knowledge. We also discussed that education is very important. With that, it becomes Sone pe Suhaga when spirituality is, what do you call it, added. It gives a flavor. Knowledge gives a person the strength of leading life, and spirituality gives the morality and the vision how to help us and others as well. In this regard, I gave the example of Arjun and Ashwatthama, both same teaching, but they were totally different because Arjun got Krishna, and that's why I was giving I'm giving a importance of learning our scriptures. And when our students, our children, they learn this, they will be having a lot of good characters. In this regard, I said that when we hear something wonderful, we think, whatever we think, we speak, whatever we speak, it becomes a habit. That way we behave, our behavior becomes habit, habits becomes nature, and nature becomes character. So in the same way, we also become, very much happy by seeing our students, our children are getting this both together. Thank you very much. Very happy to be a part of, and I'm welcoming you also anytime. Many of you are from outside Calcutta. So anytime you are coming, please visit our temple. This is the first temple of ISKCON in India. And definitely I must mention the ambassador of the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada, who is actually from Calcutta. He took this message from Bhagavad Gita. From Khidirpur Dock, he traveled, and rest is a glorious history. Now, every town there is Hare Krishna. We are trying our level best to give Krishna consciousness to everyone, definitely with education, training, and definitely with Bhagavad Gita's teachings, Ramayan's teachings, and Srimad Mahabharata's teachings as well. I wish you all the best. My respect to all the dignitaries who have come here. I will be very happy when I can meet you all personally. Thank you very much. Over to you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, and thank you so much. It's been an absolute privilege listening to you. I'm sure
Thank you.
who attended today goes back way enriched. This has particularly been an outstanding session amongst these 26 sessions that we've had so far. Thank you all for that. Unfortunately, because of the paucity of time, Hare Krishna. Unfortunately, because of the paucity of time, we will not be able to take live questions. I know Prerana was looking forward to those, but we have really overshot our time limit by quite a bit, and we wouldn't want to keep the teachers any longer. But with your permission, if the attendees have specific questions for specific speakers, we would like to send it to you over email. If you can send in your answers, we'll send it back to the attendees. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I would now invite Achin back for the vote of thanks. Achin, I do not envy your position. You have a set of absolutely stellar speakers to thank. Over to you.
Very rightly put, Shubhayu. I think great session we had. And this one really stands out among the last 26 sessions that we had. His Grace, Ananga Mohan Prabhu, each word that you said and each aspect that you dwelled on really enlightened us. How all negativity goes away when a teacher or guru lights up the torch, and how spirituality gives moral and character. So I'm sure each aspect and the audience today goes back much more enriched. Krishna's teaching to Arjun, I think very aptly put. And we all indeed agree that spirituality indeed helps to deal with power of education. And it's very true, and I'm sure all esteemed teachers, principals who are here completely agree to this, that knowledge and spirituality both need to go hand in hand. So great. And also especially like the last part, where you very optimistically put forward your views on the current pandemic and how we got to deal with it, that this indeed is a good time to introspect and rejuvenate. And ratio of speaking and hearing, very well put. Very, very well put indeed. Thank you so much for taking your time out and being with us here today. Burrett sir, great deliberation. I really like that part where you very nicely defined spirituality and religion, the commonalities as well as the distinctiveness. And it's very true that spirituality is a very different concept. So I really like that. I think great start from your side. Miss Mynoo Marvel. Really liked your deliberation, was listening to you very carefully. Especially you said that how you can transform your perspective on any situation. And when friends are in crisis, we indeed stay in touch. And in this critical time of crisis and pandemic, here in Together for Education webinars, we all are indeed connected by a common cause. And also, the way you put forward your 10 commandments, that was very, very enlightening and inspiring. Very, very inspiring. I really loved every word. Miss Prerana Langa. So I think the best part was how you explained how to handle your mind and self, and some very nice refreshing aspects like connection between breath and emotion. And very rightly put, we all agree that life will have its own share of ups and downs, and we must prepare our children accordingly. It can't be a joyride throughout. And calm and relaxed mind definitely is an asset. So I'm sure all our esteemed audience here completely agree with you on that one. And last part, really wonderful to know about your initiative of throwing challenges at government school children in Punjab and their enthusiastic participation. Thank you indeed. Great work. We will indeed work together to create a better tomorrow. Mr. Gaurav Gupta, I think very practical perspective. You are quite different from other panelists, but I really liked your perspective, which was very practical, that fulfilling the needs of job market has been a prime motive. And very rightly so, right from the time of Lord Macaulay's design of the Indian education system, one shoe fits all approach. Later years, definitely we have seen many changes, positive changes, but a promise of successful life often not fulfilled. And also like the way you deliberated on the fact that spirituality is the foundation based on which we can indeed work towards a more fulfilling life. And it's true that it's a journey and a never-ending quest. I agree with you on that one. So I think overall we had a great session today. Very, very enlightening. And I'm sure everyone in the audience goes back with some important takeaways. So do I. I thank the audience for being here with us today and supporting us in each and every session. It has really been an honor and a privilege. We at Notebook are really humbled at this enthusiastic response. Thank you. Take care and goodbye.